In this video, I'm going to add pathfinding and sound detection to my monsters, which happen to be zombies. And if you don't have the zombies from the last video, that's fine. I'll set them up real quick using some scripts that we have from Pathfinder. I'll put the link in for that. But the sound detection is pretty cool. So these zombies, you don't need to be in a line of sight. We'll create a new pathfinding object when they need it, like if a sound triggers. And here they go. And if they can no longer see you, they'll have a pathfinding object created for just a short period of time. They're zombies, so they're dumb, so they're going to forget it soon. But I thought that would be pretty cool, pretty handy, and we'll be able to make the objects new and then dispose them. And that's pretty convenient to have modular code like that. Let's go ahead and get started with our zombie pathfinding and sound detection. I have an empty base plate right here, and I want to quickly set up an NPC that I can use. So I'll go to the Avatar tab, Rig Builder. I'll do R15, and then 2016. That's a good one for a regular old NPC. And I'll put this link in the description. This is the script from the last video. So I have my damage. Let's go ahead and put damage on. Click damage, and then go to, this is the script right here. Go to copy, and then go back to your game. Inside the rig, we're going to open it up. We're going to hit the plus, S for script, and this is going to be damage. And that's tiny. Do a Control A to select here. Select everything, Control V to paste it. There's your damage script. We can go back to Pathfinder. And I'll just go back to zombie AI. There we go. And then we could do move it next. Click move it. There's the script. Hit the copy. Go back to the game. Inside the rig. Plus S for script. There's your move it. All right, so move it. And Control A. Whoops, that got everything over here. You want to get rid of the print statement. I'll just hit delete. Control V to paste what we had in paste bin. And now let's go down to server script service. I was putting the AI stuff in here. We'll hit the plus. This is where you don't want to mess up module script. This has to be a module script, right? Because all the zombies are going to use this one. So I'll call this AI tools. And the way I have my move it set up, we require AI tools. So you have to spell it the same as right there. And also I set it up so that you could put it in the zombie or in server script service, but I'm going to put it in server script service. All right, let's go back to our AI tools. We'll go over to Pathfinder, go back to zombie AI tools, and copy. Go back to our module script, AI tools, and Control V. So I just selected everything, Control V, it'll paste over it. All right, now there's one more thing we got to do. In these rigs, I had a folder, so or a model, either will work. Let's right click. We'll group as, how about model? And then I call this zombies. If you don't have that spelled the same, your pathfinding is not going to work because I have it so that zombies don't block the vision of other zombies. All right, now we don't have our animate script set up yet, but this guy should still move around. Right? He's not going to run, but he's going to move around. Let's try it. There he is. So we got to get it so that he's running. I'm not going to make an animation in this video. You can go to the last video if you want to add an animation. Let's go ahead and get that animate stuff working. So I turn my game off. I'm going to go to my zombies and then rig, open that up. This is the problem. Roblox made a local script for the animate, but that is a server object. NPCs are server. They're not clients. They're not players. So we need to hit the plus S script. There it is. It's got to be called animate. And whoops. Make sure you spell it right. Animate. There we go. There's one right underneath it, so you can check the spelling. Hit the enter. Open that up. All this stuff underneath the animate that Roblox provided is good. Shift click. We'll just move that to our animate. Nice. I'll close that. Open up the Roblox animate local script. Control A and then Control C. So I selected all, I copied all. Go back to the animate. Delete the print statement. Paste. Nice. Now we need to go up here. Set emote chat hook. We'll delete this so we don't get any errors in the output window. Right, because it's a client script and that'll only work with client stuff. It's a local script, right? It'll only work with players. Now when we try this thing out, we should get our NPC running like a regular humanoid. Here we go. And he is. All right. Looking good. Now we can start adding the other stuff like the pathfinding and the sound detection. So I don't want to just add pathfinding to the AI. I want to make a module script where I could do the .new operator and I could destroy it and all that kind of cool stuff. Let me go ahead and close zombies for now. And then I'm going to go down to server script service. I'm going to hit the plus. I'm going to add a new module script for the pathfinding. All right, so I'll call this, how about Pathfinder? There we go. I can make this a little bigger so that you can see it better. And we'll call this Pathfinder. And if you change this name, you have to change that name. I'm going to add two things to the top here. Let's see. We're going to need our pathfinding service. I'll just call that PFS. Game get service. Pathfinding service. And I'll get the Pathfinder dot underscore index and set that to Pathfinder. All right, so I covered a little bit of this, quite a bit of this actually, 2 videos ago in the meta tables video. So you might want to review that if it looks a little bit foreign. Let's get a function, and I'll do Pathfinder dot new. So we're going to create a new instance of our Pathfinder with this function. That's why I used the dot. All right, so we got the dot. Let's do a local self, and self is a special variable reserved for referring to the object that you're dealing with. It's like this in Java, and in Python it's actually self also. So we're going to get our meta table. All right, and we'll just do an empty table right here, and then the Pathfinder, and now we will have a meta table defined called self. We could set things in self like the character, right, from the char that we passed in, and maybe we'll do a little print statement to see if it's working for different characters, right? Like if we call this on different characters, are we going to get different instances of our Pathfinder? So let's say zombie PF initialized, and then maybe we'll put the name of the zombie. So we're going to have to call the zombie different things if we want to see the name be different. All right, so that's just going to be rig. Let's call this zombie Bert, right? So Bert, and then we can add like another one when we do 2 Pathfinders to see that they'll have different names. All right, I'm going to get a few more variables. Let's get self hum char colon wait for child. Hope I spelt that all right. Yep, wait for child. humanoid. I'm going to do another one for the humanoid root part. So I'll say self, HRP for humanoid root part, char, wait for child, humanoid root part. There we go. What else? For the pathfinding service, we should have a self.path. Sweet. PFS, colon, and we'll do a create path right here. What else? We could do a home position to have a meander home. I don't think I'll do that right now, but that would be nice to have. So we'll do a self. What do we need for waypoints? Oh yeah, waypoints for our pathfinding. And that'll just be an empty table for now. I know we need to have the current waypoint position, right? So we'll call that current, not waypoint position. This is the current waypoint index. What waypoint we're on. There we go. All right, now when we get to a waypoint, what are we going to do? We are going to create a connection. Let's do self connection, and that's going to be self hum dot move to finish. So when we get to a destination from our move to on the humanoid, we are going to connect to an anonymous function. Reached will be passed in. Let me just make this a little bigger. Perfect. And then in between those two parentheses, I'm going to hit enter. And then this is going to be the information we're going to have for what happens when we reach a point. Let's go ahead and scroll this up a little bit. All right, so this is whether the point was reached or not. It's a true or a false. So we'll say if reached, right? We want to see if reached and self dot current waypoint is less than the total number. So that little number sign is how many waypoints are in our table. We have a self waypoints table. Now waypoints doesn't have anything in it yet, but we will compute those once we have a goal, right? But this is just setting things up for when we get to a position. What are we going to do when we finish getting to that position, right? Oh, we want to go to the next waypoint. So let's say self dot current waypoint plus equals 1. We're going to increment our waypoints. And then let's also make sure that we can jump if we need to. So I'll say if self, that's the waypoints table, open and close square bracket, self dot current waypoint dot action equals. So if we have to jump, if our action equals waypoint action dot jump, then we should jump, right? So Roblox is going to tell you whether that happens. We're just going to say, hey, what do we do when this happens? Well, we can just say self.humanoid.jump equals true. And that will make your humanoid jump. You can do that whenever you want. You don't have to do it just here. You can just make them jump, right? And then we'll say down here, if they have to jump, well, now let's go ahead and get our self.hum move to, and we want to go to the next waypoint. Oh, I don't have anything convenient to copy, so I'll have to type it out. We'll say self.waypoints. Oh, I could have done that. I could have copied self.current waypoint dot position, right? So we want to go to the position of the next waypoint. We get to a waypoint, we finish, we arrived, we reached it, then we'll go to the next one. But it's possible that we didn't reach it. Maybe we got stuck in a wall or something. And I don't know if you noticed in the demo, if we get stuck, what I do is I just stop the zombie because the zombie's stupid, but you can have them do other stuff if they get here. I'm just going to say hum, and we'll say move to self.hrp.position. So where we are is where we're going to move to. then we're done. What I'm going to do is get the self.connection, and I'm going to disconnect it. All right, so we're disconnecting our zombie. He's not moving anymore. He got stuck. He stopped. What's the last thing we have to do? Down here at the end, we will return self. Now, we're not actually computing the path yet, but I think we should still test this out to see if we have any errors. Let's go over to the move it, which is in the zombie if you lost it. So zombies, Bert, we call him Bert, and then move it down here. This is a little different if you're using your zombie from the last video. It all works the same. I just have it set up so that you could put the AI in the zombie or in server script service. So let's just go down here, and then we'll say local. We're going to need the pathfinding. We're going to need to require that. So we'll say pathfinding require. I'm going to assume this stuff isn't here for the people who watched the last video. So I'll just say game dot server script service, and then we're going to look for our pathfinder. So that object has to be the same name as this one down here, right? The file name has to be the same. All right, when we get our pathfinder, what else are we going to need? I may have added this home position too, or actually don't really need that. So maybe I'll just delete that. And I'm going to make a variable called my pathfinder, make that nil. And I'm also going to have a last spotted, right? Last spotted. And that's if the zombie sees a humanoid or some sort of player, we're going to store the humanoid root part in here as well as in here. That way, when he loses sight, we're going to have some retention of who we saw last. All right, now down here in this while loop, if we get a closest HRP, that means we see a player. We are close enough. This is the distance of interest. And there's also ray casting. There's a direct line of sight between the zombie and the player. So closest HRP will have a value. Well, if closest HRP has a value, let's go ahead and get the last spotted and initialize that with the closest HRP we just saw. And then we want to make sure that if a pathfinder is active, we're going to shut it off because we don't need it anymore. We see the person, right? So we'll say if my pathfinder exists, we created it, which we haven't yet, but we will. Then my pathfinder will equal nil. We'll also have a destroy here, but we're not ready for that yet. All right, so down here, when there's no closest humanoid root part in this else, let's get rid of this, right? And we'll say if last spotted exists, so we saw somebody and my pathfinder equals nil, then my pathfinder equals pathfinding.new char. So we're going to instantiate a pathfinding object for our character. And this char is for the zombie, not for the player we saw. And then what we can do is here we'll compute our waypoints. We haven't done that yet, right? So compute waypoints. Let's try this out to see if we have any errors. Now remember, we can only instantiate the pathfinder if the zombie or NPC saw the player and then doesn't see them now. So I'm going to have to make a wall, right? So we'll get our wall here, make it big so that we can hide behind it. Maybe not that big. Let's make it anchored so our zombie doesn't knock it over. And then we'll hit the play. All right, let's go to view, output, game starting up, right? And we should have something like zombie PF initialized for Bert. Bert's the zombie name. He's not going to chase us, but as soon as he sees us, our pathfinding object should be created. Yeah, zombie PF initialized Bert. And he's standing against the wall, right? He can't find us yet. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's make some pathfinding so Bert can find what he's looking for. Let's go over to our Pathfinder script, right? And it is in server script service in case you lost it down there. We need to compute waypoints. So under my Pathfinder function, I am going to create a function. It's actually going to be a method though, right? We call them both functions for declaration. We'll say Pathfinder : and how about follow path, and the goal will be the position. All right, so that's the position we're going to be looking for. I'm going to say self, look at that, self path compute async. That's a hard word to spell. I had it right. Async self again, HRP position goal. Now you might be saying, hey, how is this self getting the path in the HRP when this was locally defined up here? Well, it was locally defined, but we set it as a meta table for our pathfinding table. So now when we come down here, it's like an object. It's like this in Java, right? We can use it. So the self is this instance of this table. All right, what else are we going to do? Well, self waypoints. Remember, we have a variable for waypoints. We'll just go ahead and initialize that. We'll get our self, and then we have our current waypoint. Current waypoint. Oops, spelled point wrong. Point equals 1. And let's go ahead and say if self path.status, right? Enum path status. There we go. Success. Then we computed the waypoints to the goal successfully, right? So the path status was successful. Cool. That means we have waypoints. So let's go ahead and get our waypoints. We'll say self dot path get waypoints. And make sure you spell that right, because you don't get the IntelliSense when you're using the self like you do with regular variables. It's a little more advanced. Roblox hasn't gotten there yet. So let's get our self dot hum move to, we'll say self waypoints. Ooh, we got our waypoints. That's pretty cool. And then open and close square bracket. Self, we have our current waypoint, right? And then what we want to do is we want to move to the position of the waypoint. All right, what else are we going to do? We got to take into consideration that jump thing. There we go. And you can put this jump before and after. This executes so quickly that it'll know to jump even before it starts moving. There we go. All right, so it'll jump in case it needs to. Everything looks right. What can happen? Well, this might not be successful, right? This might fail. Let's go to the end of here, and we'll put the else condition. If this doesn't execute, we need something to execute. Let's just put a print. Zombies dump. If he didn't compute the waypoints, let's just put a message like, ugh, path creation failed. And that's what I usually put. All right. One more thing. Not really sure if it's needed, but it's good to have it. I'll do a function path. Finder : destroy. And usually destroy is capitalized. I know I have kind of a goofy convention. I match my work convention. I don't really match the Pascal case of Roblox, but You get the idea. I think you can make that leap, right? So I'm going to say waypoints equals just an empty table. And then I'm going to get the connection, right? We made the connection for the move to finish. Let's just go ahead and disconnect that. All right, cool. Let's go back to the move it. There we go. And in the while loop, we put a note here for destroying our Pathfinder. So I'll say my Pathfinder : destroy right before I make it nil. And let's go down here, compute waypoints. So once we instantiate our Pathfinder, we'll say my Pathfinder : follow path. Now we need a goal right here. So we have our last spotted HRP. We could pass in the position. And if you want just to slow things down a little bit so you don't have too much resource intensive looping going on, you can just put a little bit of pause there because you're going to start following a path. All right, let's go ahead and try this out. See if Bert chases our player around. I'm going to hit the play. Let's take a look at our output window. All right, that's looking good. Now Bert should chase us around. Oh yeah. He is. He's looking for us. If we make that a little lower, he'll jump. Let's try that out. Let's close this. And then shrink that down just so that he can't see us. Where's my home? And scale's already selected. So that he can't see us, but he could still jump. I think that'll work. So we did get a Pathfinder initialization failure. That's going to happen. Here we go. All right, he can't see us. What if I jump? Oh, he can see us. Oh, and he can jump too. He can do damage. Did it fail? It just ran out, right? So when we get to the end of the path, we don't create a new one. You could do that. It would be pretty easy. All right. I like it. But remember, it's a zombie, so you're going to have to play around with the intelligence, see what you want, see what you don't want. Now let's make it respond to a sound. All right. I think I'll make like something crunch. We're going to step on it. I know I did a button in the video. Let's go ahead and add a little block. And then this is going to crunch. We'll make it like leaf looking or something. Make it like brown. And plastic. Oh, we should make this bigger. How about leafy grass? Yeah, and then when we step on it, it's going to crunch. So I'll put this crunch part. Right, and then let's put a script on here. Add the plus. Get a script. And then we'll call this crunch. Right, and before we add any code, let's go over here. Go to your toolbox, models, audio. How about a crunch? There's a crunch. I just had one. And we'll hit enter. Bone crunch. Yeah, that'll work. All right, so on the crunch part, there we go. We're going to add that bone crunch. So notice bone crunch is under crunch part as well as the script. Now let's go down to server storage and add a bindable event that's going to capture sound and send it to the zombie. So we're going to hit the plus and then B for bindable event. And then I'm going to call this sound BE. In our crunch, open up crunch. It's on the crunch part. We want to get a variable for our crunch part. So I'm going to say local, and we just call it part, right? Script.parent. I want to get the sound, SND, so it will be part. And we got a space in that name. So you could do a wait for child. That would work. Sure, let's do that. You can't just do a dot when you have a space. You have to use either the bracket notation or the wait for child. But that's pretty easy. And we need our bindable event. So we need server storage, game get service, server storage. And then we'll get the bindable event. I'm only going to use one, so I'll just call it BESS, wait for child, sound BE. Let's add a touched event to the part. So we have our crunch part, or just part, and then touched, connect, function, other part. That's like the foot or something that steps on their part. And now we'll do how about local player game. Let's see, I'll do a dot, game players, and then get player from character. Well, if that's like a foot or something, the parent will be the character. If not, then player will be nil, right? And if it's not a player will be nil. So if it's a zombie, they're not going to make a crunch sound, and they're not going to send an event, right? You could change it if you wanted to. So we'll have if the player, then we need our sound right here. Okay, sound, SND play. Cool. And then maybe pause for effect a little bit. The zombie's going to be like, what? Just like a half a second. We're going to need the character. So say local char. And we could do the player.character, or we know that's a character if we got in through that player if statement. And then what else? Let's get the humanoid root part for the location. So we'll send the location of the humanoid root part, not the leaf. All right. I just think that works out better. So we'll have char, wait for child, humanoid root part. Let's see if I spelled everything right. Good. I know we'll do a BE fire. It's going to fire the bindable event. We'll send the HRP position. All right, now we need to capture this in the move it script. So let's go over to Bert's move it script. If you lost it, Bert, move it. And we have to prepare for the sound. So in our move it, we don't need the sound. We only need the sound position, right? The one that the bindable event sent. So I'll just make that nil. We are going to need server storage, game, get service, server storage. And then we're going to need the bindable event from server storage, wait for child, sound bindable event. And then make sure you don't do this below the while loop, because then it'll never execute. Do it above. Do a BE event. That's to capture the bindable event. We will connect that to a function. The position's going to get passed in from the crunch part. We'll say sound POS equals to POS. Nice. Now when we come down here, if we see somebody, let's ignore the sound, right? So if we see somebody, sound POS is going to go back to nil. All right. And then we come down here. We don't see anybody. That's the one that we're really interested in. And we don't have a last spotted where we're chasing somebody. Let's do this. Else if sound position, then, and you might want to do a little bit of a random wait or something for the different zombies. You might make a random object here, so maybe 0.2 seconds, so they all respond maybe a little bit differently. They're not, because we're just going to duplicate this when we make more zombies, but you might want that for your game. We're going to get our Pathfinder, right? We're going to do this. Control C, Control V, but this time we're going to put the sound position in there, right? So we'll say sound position. You can keep this weight here if you want. It doesn't matter. It's good to kind of slow down the computation, and the pathfinding was just initialized, so it's not like you have to do updates all that quickly. So then what we can do is we can say, oh, he heard the sound. The sound is no longer interesting, so we'll say sound is nil. Alrighty. Do you feel lucky? Let's try it out. All right, let's go ahead and view output. Just gonna sneak around here. Make sure you don't make any noise. Oh, we need to put a debounce on it, but it does work. Let's put a debounce on our leaf. And I'm gonna anchor it too. All right, so we got our little leaf. Where's our part? Here's our crunch part. Let's anchor it. Here, just do this. AN. There we go. Even that was hard. And then we'll open up the crunch. Local can crunch equals true. Right, now when we get in here, let's do a can crunch equals false. Oh, we got a in the if statement too. If player and can crunch, right? That'll be false. And then after we do a crunch, we might want to do another little wait. I don't know, maybe like 2 seconds. So somebody else might crunch it. And then we'll turn can crunch back on. That way we won't get that funny noise. All right, let's try it again. Here we go. Being quiet. Put the output window. Uh-oh. Hey, here he comes. We made a noise, and he's chasing after us. That's cool. And you can make a whole bunch of different NPCs that'll chase. Just remember, we put the restriction that it has to be in this folder. If you don't want it to be in that folder, you're going to have to go over to your AI tools, which is what's down server storage, AI tools. Look at this. The filter descendants instances for line of sight, it's going to be looking for zombies. So if you don't have, you might just want to put the individual zombies or some sort of folder for your NPCs. If you rename it, go ahead and change that in the AI tools. You only have to change it one place, right? Because it's centralized. If you want to make another zombie or NPC, do it in this folder, right? So click on that and then hit Control D. Let's call this something else. Let's call this like Merle. I don't know how to spell Merle. There you go. That's close enough. Let's take a look at Merle real quick. Move him over. Maybe a little more. Hit the play. Let's try it out. Oh, here they come. All right, so now you have some pathfinding and you have some sound detection. Anything you want to be able to sense, you're going to have to send that event out so that the NPCs pick up on it. I will see you in the next video.